wanted to build my credit. That's what it was. I needed to build my credit because I've had bad credit for years. I had bad credit.
Come on here.
That's the key. Had. H-A-D.
Come on,
okay?
Jesus.
So,
yes.
So I wanted to get my credit right, so I knew I had to pay my bills, okay? Then I started getting credit cards in the mail because my credit was good. And what did I do? I used them. So
they were like, here you go, girl. Go ahead,
exactly.
take this.
And I felt good about that. So I got into a bind again, once again. And that's what, so I learned a little bit. I got my credit straight, but I fell right back into that hole again.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl here, Breanna Colón, and today I'm excited to be with you again for another wonderful podcast episode. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, thank you so much for taking the time to hang with me. Today, I have another one of our Integrity Financial Family clients that came to hang out with me today. Her name is Carolyn. Carolyn, say hi to the people.
Well, hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Feel free to post in the comments to say hi or whatever you feel like saying. Hey, I'm listening from, I'm watching from, wherever you are. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. So we're going to talk a little bit about Carolyn's journey with us. She has been a client since 2019. Yeah,
correct.
The end of December 2019. And I guess she likes us a little bit after all these years, right?
You can say that. Yes.
You can say, right. So I want to start with just asking you a little bit about growing up. What was money life like in your household? Like, did your parents teach you anything about money? What was your experience of seeing how money was handled growing up?
Well, I grew up in a single family home.
Okay.
Just my mom raised my sister and me. And she was good with money because she did a lot with a little bit of money, okay? But she didn't really teach me much about money. My sister's older, so my sister was usually in charge of me, so she taught her a little about money. But I didn't know anything about money other than to spend it, okay? So
we all get good at that,
right? Exactly. So I never was just actually taught in my household growing up about money. Now, when we were teenagers, we or even preteens, because I remember I used to babysit when I was around 12 or 13 years old. And she would always say, save some of your money and the rest, save it so we could buy school clothes, some school clothes, so we could help her out with her buying the school clothes. Okay. So I guess she did teach me something about saving a little to use for myself.
Gotcha. So would you say that kind of on a surface level, you know, she would tell you to save, but it's just that she didn't necessarily show you how. She kind of left that for you to, you know, understand that saves mean, you know, save your money, save half, save a third, save whatever, but save something.
Yes.
I've heard that a lot from some other clients that I've asked that same question. And it may have just been a theme. It could be a generational type thing, you know, for us in the African American culture too. Of, you know, we didn't necessarily, maybe the parents didn't necessarily know to teach. You know, like that should be a part of your raising a child, is to teach them, you know, about money. Other than the generalities, like they know to tell you, like, hey, you better save your money.
Right.
I'm not gonna be bailing you out.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. She didn't tell me how or what percentage or anything like that. But she knew, because we liked clothes. Yeah. We knew she was gonna buy clothes for us. But in order to get more clothes, you'd have to save some money. Put some money aside.
Extra dress.
Yeah, right.
Put aside $20 or whatever.
Get them shoes that cost $20 back then at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I understood it, and that was it.
So how did that roll into adulthood for you? What became your relationship with money, you know, in your young adult life going into, you know, up to now?
Well, early adult life. Well, I've always had a summer job, or I had a part-time job even when I was in school, in college. I had a part-time job, and I went to college here locally. So I always had a part-time job, but I just spent my money. I didn't save. And what I thought was saving, I would save it for something special that I wanted, not to keep an amount in the bank to grow for savings. So whatever I saved, I spent probably in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I saved. For stuff. Exactly. And then I had a zero bank account again. Because I always had a bank account. My mother got us a bank account when we were like when I was 17 years old. So she did, get us a bank account and told me about that, that I should have one. And we went to the bank and got it in my name. But other than that, no, I didn't know how to really save money, because I don't call that saving money.
Right. You're like, I got paid and I think I want to buy this and that. Oh, I can get this thing I was thinking about. And that's a lot of people, quite honestly. I mean, that's not a good thing. We're not, congratulating people for that. But I mean, it's a common thing. I mean, I did it in college because, my parents did fine financially, but they didn't really teach me about money. So a lot of things I learned the hard way. And some of it I didn't communicate to them as a young adult to say, hey, I've accumulated $3,000 in debt on my credit cards. What do? I didn't consult them because I was like, I got this. Exactly. I just figured as long as I'm paying them every month and I'm making my money, then I'm going to spend my money. And what's the problem? Right. Save. What? Right. Save for what?
Exactly.
I'm gonna get another paycheck. Why do I need to save? But this is a problem because this is just a poor mentality that we have learned over the years that has really hindered Black people. A lot of Black people hindered, and it's not just limited to our race, but I know it's very prevalent in our culture that we were not taught. Therefore, we caught whatever we caught around us in our environment of best uses for how to use money. There are obviously some people who understand and know how to save properly, but that's if I had to put it in percentages, it's probably a very small percentage of Black people, of the Black population, that knows how to properly manage money and save money compared to the percentage of us that do not. So carrying on into adulthood, would you say that because you were used to spending money, is that like, when was your first introduction to like credit cards and that kind of thing?
Now, the credit cards came probably when I was in my mid-20s. And I realized I could get the credit cards easily at that point. And so I got credit cards. And what I didn't realize is I had to pay them off. Now, you would think I would know that, right? But I just charged pretty much whatever I wanted at that point.
I think it gets exciting, though, when you see at the time, when you're in that mindset, like, oh, I've got a credit card. To some extent, I think people feel a level of excitement of, hey, I just got a $2,000 credit line. Like, I got $2,000. And then you start thinking, like, I got $2,000. No, you really don't have $2,000. Correct. Somebody's letting you borrow $2,000. Right? But it's just the way that we think. At least for me, I know that's how I was thinking. Like, oh, well, I got $2,000 on this card and I got $3,000. No, you don't. Exactly. It's so easy to get caught up in that. But you were saying, I'm sorry.
And that's okay. And then, of course, you don't pay this month, and the interest rate it's higher, and you have that late charge, that late fee. So it just snowballs. Yeah. But I got married at an early age, and now my ex-husband was good with money. But he liked to work all the time. So I was in charge of the household. So I guess he thought I was good with money. Why, I don't know.
And it's usually opposites attract. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that he was good with money, and you were like, I like to spend money. I'm good at that.
Because he liked to save money. He liked to save money. Yeah. And so, I did the household bills. I mean, I knew enough to pay the bills.
Right, of course.
Okay. But anything extra, and I never called it a budget. It's just after you pay the bills, anything extra, then that was my money. I didn't think about saving first before I spent. I didn't have that concept at all. because I knew I was going to get a paycheck, okay?
Right.
And he was going to get a paycheck, and he worked a lot of overtime. So, the money was coming in. So what's the problem?
Right.
So we spent, and he would always ask me how much we saved, or did I save? And sometimes I tell the truth, and sometimes I wouldn't. I mean, it's just that's the truth,
right. That's where you were at that time.
That's where I was at that time.
Sure.
And for the most part, and he didn't check behind me or anything like that.
Right.
But for the most part.
So how much would you say that was in savings?
How much was in the savings? Well, it never went past $1,000, but I thought that was a lot.
Right.
I thought that if you had $1,000 in the bank saved, that was a lot that you didn't touch.
Right.
So we always kept at least $1,000 in, but $1,000 is nothing at this point. Now I know that now. Yeah. But we were in our 20s and 30s, so back then $1,000 was a lot, for us to have.
When you're not used to saving,
exactly,
1,000 definitely sounds like a lot.
So, but then it got out of hand, and well, I'm not going to talk about my personal life, but
sure.
It's just we were backed up, because if you don't have a savings and something goes wrong, then you need that money, or hospital bills and different things of that concern, or any type of emergency. So,
so how did y'all handle emergencies then? If you only had $1,000, if something came up, did you get a loan? Did you get put it on a credit card, or what was the process?
Credit card. Credit card.
And I think, let me just pause right there, because a lot of people are in that category, quite honestly, that will, think, like you just said a minute ago, that $1,000, they think they've done something by having 1,000. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've been able to save 1,000, that is a great start. But you have to keep going, and you have to think about how much money do you actually make per year, and not just say, well, $1,000 is what I have saved. An emergency could easily be well over $1,000. Your tires. Get 4 tires right now, and you're going to be over $1,000, unless you're driving a little tiny car, then you might be able to get it for $800. But either way, you're still wiping out this savings account like lickety split with that. So I think it's important to really point out that how the importance of having adequate savings. And I've talked about this in a previous podcast, but just in case, because there might be new people listening that didn't hear the previous podcast, it's worth mentioning again that you need to look at how much money do you need to live off of every month. How much does it take to run your house? Then you need to set that as your next savings goal. After you've saved $1,000, your next goal is whatever it is to run your house. So if it's $4,000 to run your house, then you need $4,000 in savings, and that's a 1-month cash reserve. That's your next goal. Once you reach that number, then you set the next goal to a 2-month cash reserve, $8,000. But you have to take it a step further. It can't just be, well, I'm going to save $4,000. Well, when and how are you doing that exactly? You got to have a written budget. So did you have a written budget before?
No, I did not. Now, everything that you just said, that's strategy. Yeah. We had no strategy. It was, you work every day. And we had that philosophy, you work, you have fun, you spend your money. So we didn't strategize. We didn't figure out, well, what do we need after that $1,000? If we want to go on vacation, with the children or period, where do we get that money? So we didn't think of in terms like that. Christmas, what's the budget for Christmas? Right. We did have a Christmas budget at the bank, where you would put so much in, and by Christmas you would have maybe $900 or something like that. But
you just brought up a good point, though, is that sometimes we put so much emphasis on Christmas, we will set aside sometimes all this money to spend at Christmas, but won't set aside for an emergency. We got it a little backwards, just a little bit. Aside from the fact that it's Jesus' birthday, it's not your child's birthday, it's not your birthday, it's not your spouse's birthday. You're supposed to do all of that on their birthday, celebrate them on their birthday. But we go all out on Christmas, spending all this money, and for some people, they're spending it all on credit cards. They're running up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on credit cards, and then spend all year trying to pay it off. Or they spend some of it at tax time, I'm going to take this tax money and I'm going to pay off this and pay off that, but they're not thinking about the savings part. Well, saving money is just as important as getting out of debt, really, is the bottom line. And at the end of the day, you really need to think about, out of your paycheck, if your paycheck is $5,000 a month, how much of that do you want to keep? We tend to think that, okay, I got 5,000, so I'm gonna buy this. We try to figure out how we can use it all, as opposed to how can we save most of it. How about that? You know what I mean? It's just a whole shift in mindset. So anyway, as we were.
So we didn't think in terms of to give yourself an allowance to pay yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
We like I said, the whole thing was strategy and figuring out what we need to save, how much we make a year.
Yeah.
We never
thinking about that. I just know another check is coming.
Another check is coming.
Show up to work, you get a check.
The only way I knew how much I made a year is on the forms that you get, the government forms that you get, or when your W-2 came back. To be honest, I wasn't even sure how much I made a year.
You know what? Now, I have heard that quite often, believe it or not, when I'm doing life insurance, actually, and I'll ask someone, how much do you make per year? And they're like, and I'm like, okay, well, how much do you make per hour? And then I'll just calculate, figure it out, But we need to know, how much do you make per year? Again, it speaks to our mentality, because we've got to get out of this paycheck to paycheck mentality. What happens if the paycheck doesn't come next pay period? Mm-hmm. Then you're going to be in a pickle.
Yeah.
You'll really be in a pickle. So we really got to get out of this paycheck to paycheck mentality, because we just assume, people get comfortable. That's the problem. People get comfortable when they get a job, and they assume that they're going to be in this job because, I've already been here 5 years. I've already been here 10 years. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to assume that you're going to be there another 10 years. You don't know that to be a fact.
Exactly.
Any number of things could happen. We could get sick. God forbid, the job could decide to have a layoff. Ask the people who have gotten laid off, who were like, I was at my job for 10 years and I got laid off. Like, what? They didn't see that coming.
And I've been there.
Yeah, mm-hmm. You don't expect it. And so that's drives home the point of why it's important for us to expect the unexpected and plan accordingly. There are things that we know about that we need to plan for every year, such as when you talked about Christmas. We know that Christmas comes every year, yet people don't always plan for it. Some people, like you said, you did set aside and, have a little Christmas fund or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, a good number of people don't plan for Christmas and have a set aside amount. They act like they didn't know it was coming. And then, Christmas coming, I want to get this, that, the other. Mm-hmm. And it goes on the credit cards. Mm-hmm. Or the fact that, you'll have, my baby is turning 2 and I want to have a big party for him. And the party's $300-400. You don't have the $300 or $400. You knew all year long you were going to want to do this for Johnny, for Sally, for whoever. But you didn't set aside the money for it. These are known things that you have to plan for. First of all, you don't need to spend $300-400. Let me address that. On the party. For the 2-year-old, it's not going to remember it. You're going to remember it, but they're not going to remember the party you threw it when they was 2.
Right.
They're not. Now, I'm just saying, now, if you have the money and you don't have debts and other priorities, your stuff is in order, then, hey, do you. If you want to throw your baby a party, throw your baby a party. But we're talking about people who are not in financial position to be paying that kind of money out for extravagant parties because they don't have their own financial stuff in check, And so, anyway, I'm getting off a little tangent here, but back to you. So basically, you were saying that you didn't really have a budget, and so as through your adulthood, it was just kind of, hey, we're getting another check Friday, and once we get paid, we'll pay the bills, and whatever's left, and that's what we got to work off of, and we do what we do. Basically.
That's right. Spend it until it's gone, mm-hmm. and just look forward to the next paycheck. And if we spent it and there's nothing left, then I didn't have a problem with borrowing money. Mm-hmm. So now when you get paid, you owe people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it just was a cycle. It becomes a cycle. Mm-hmm. Then you got to rob Peter to pay Paul because you owe this person. I know that's old school. I'm telling you, that is real old school.
I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Do people still say that? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they do.
I did that for a number of years, mm-hmm. and it's stressful.
Yeah.
It's just stressful. So yeah.
So what made you decide to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna give them a call because I feel like I need to do something different than what I've been doing financially?
Well, we had a finance class that you had given Finance 101
That was the
at our
financial
church.
boot camp.
Financial
At
boot
Great
camp.
Commission.
Exactly.
Yep. That was like
And
2007 or 2008, somewhere around in that time frame.
okay,
It was good, a good
okay.
while ago. But yes,
Oh yeah, it was a
yes,
while ago.
yes. Shout out
And
to Pastor Whitedale and Terry.
all right.
Love them, love them.
Pastors.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I went to that. I went to, I don't know how many times it was, or once a week,
That was
or whenever.
well. We did a 6-month boot camp.
Oh, it was
at
6
the time.
months.
It was a 6-month boot camp, but it was once a month
Okay.
that everybody had to come together.
Yes. Well, I went because clearly I needed financial help, and this was just Finance 101. And it was so many things I didn't know, not only about money, but insurance policies. And do you need this insurance policy? And it was just a combination of things. And it was interesting to me because I never had really been in you know, knowledgeable, even wanted to know about finances.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I purposely didn't choose that field to go in, for my career because I didn't like finances.
Yeah.
And even now when when we have our financial sessions, anything over like an hour and a half, I don't even want to talk about it no more. I've had my feel for finances.
Right.
But
right.
I'm into it now more than I ever was because there's a different side to it, okay? And I understand that now.
Yeah, yeah.
And not getting off the point, but I made decent money, good money, but I never had money. So I'm like, something's wrong with this
picture. A lot of people can relate to that. I'm telling you now. I'm telling you, some of these people that are listening, I'm sure that they can relate to. Like, I feel like I get quite a few people actually that when they come to see us, that is exactly what they say. Like, I make good money, but I feel like I don't have anything to show for it. I feel like I've never had money. Like, it's a problem. I need to fix this.
Exactly. So, and then I've seen people that I've made more money. Not that to say I'm, looking at somebody say, well, she got more than I got.
Right.
But I've seen people use their money wisely. So I wanted to know how. I wanted to get in on that as well. And finally, just
so you went to the boot camp.
I went to the boot camp. Yes, I did.
So, but you didn't. That was a long time ago, of course. But you took some nuggets from there, obviously.
I took nuggets from it. Yes.
And so, did you do anything with it then, or that was just kind of like, okay, this was good. This is a good start, at least to get you to thinking about money. And then fast forward now to 3 years ago, 2019.
So I picked up a lot from it and I started saving money.
Okay.
So when did I get my house? I started saving money. No, I'd already had my house. Okay. But yeah, I just started saving money, but it wasn't consistent. That consistency I didn't have.
Okay.
So I was paying off debt, but then because I wanted to build my credit, that's what it was. I needed to build my credit because I've had bad credit for years. I had bad credit.
Come on here.
That's the key. Had H-A-D.
Come on.
So I wanted to get my credit right, so I knew I had to pay my bills, okay?
Right, yeah.
Pay my bills and pay off my debts. So I did that. But then I started getting credit cards in the mail because my credit was good. And what did I do? I used them. So
they were like, here you go, girl. Go ahead, take this.
And I felt good about that. So I got into a bind again, once again. And that's what, so I learned a little bit. I got my credit straight, but I fell right back into that hole again. So after that, I said, no, this is it. I don't ever want to be in that position anymore because I'm getting older here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and I always remembered when I took that financial class, and there's a lot of financial advisors. There's a lot of people know about finance, but I always said, when I come into the place or come into the sense that I want to get this financial thing right, then I'm going to call Breanna Colón. I always said that because for some reason I trusted you. Okay, I know.
That's sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really don't take that lightly.
And that's what I did. And that's what I did. I called you in 2019, and shortly after that is when we got together.
Okay, awesome.
It's been good ever since.
And you are rocking and rolling, honey. You rocking
and
rolling.
Yes, I am.
So it's been almost 4 years. I want to talk a little bit about where you were in relation to where you are now. But I am going to pause for a quick break. So we will be right back. Come on right back so you can hear where she was and where she is now, because it's awesome. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. If you're just tuning in, you will absolutely want to start this from the beginning so you can catch the full episode from all the great stuff and conversation that we've had thus far. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking to Carolyn, who is one of our Integrity Financial family clients. Yes, we do consider our clients to be family. That's how we roll up in here. So we were talking a little bit about your history and your relationship with money growing up and into your adult life, and kind of how things have been handled up to the point of when you first sought help from us and decided to become a client. So at that time, I think you did not have any money saved when you came to us in 2019. Is that right?
I had no savings.
Okay, gotcha. Keyword was what? Had. She had no savings. And then, but once we plugged in all your numbers, we saw that you had about $800, just over $800 in disposable income. But did it feel that way at the time?
No, it did not. Started? No, it did not.
Because you didn't have a budget.
I didn't have a budget.
Yeah. So it's just kind of you just spending off of whatever was left over. So in that scenario, it would be easy to not really realize, like, how much do I have left over that I need to plan for? So when we first started, one of her goals, first of all, she was a very young, 66 years old. And I like to point that out because it's important for people to note. Sometimes I get asked, like, well, how long is too long to wait to get a financial advisor or to plan for retirement? It's never too late to have a good financial plan. As long as you are alive and breathing, and you're making money from some form, shape, or fashion, whether it's, we've had people that are retired already that are trying to get their financial life together so they can enhance their retirement life. So age is just a number, literally. It really is just a number. So I applaud you for saying, hey, you know what? I really want to be able to retire, and I need to make sure that all my stuff is together so that I can.
Yes.
I think that's really, really important. And so that was one of her top priorities at the time when she first came. She had said at that time, this was 2019, her goal was that by December of 2021, that was the date that you had set and said, and I asked her, what was that based on? Which was, it's based on me not wanting to work no more.
Exactly.
Period, point blank. I just don't want to work. Like, what? But she wanted to make sure that she was set financially. And so I find that a lot of times with people that are working kind of in services arenas, meaning like government employees, school employees, that retire with the pensions and 403Bs or TSPs or 401Ks, that tends to be a common theme sometimes, that people want to retire based on years of service, but years of service does not equal financial readiness. And so Carolyn, realized that, like, hey, I'm going to have a certain number of years, but I also want to make sure that my finances are in line with me wanting to make this transition. So I definitely, applaud you for that. So when so we had, our job was at that time, we had to figure out, okay, well, if you want to retire, first of all, let's see, what does it look like if you want to retire in 2021? And so we had to look at the numbers to figure out, based on your pension, based on all the different sources of income, will that be enough for you to live off of, or do you need to wait a little bit longer? And then it also comes into, it's not just let me see how much income I'm going to have, but it's also looking at the current expenses, because if you don't know, first you got to figure out how much money do you need to be able to live off of in retirement, which may be different than the amount of money you need to live off of right now. And so we had to look at that, at your current expenses, because knowing that, okay, we have $880 to work off of, and this is after paying yourself as well. Mm-hmm. We helped her determine how much she could afford to pay herself and that type of thing. So from that $880, we had to be able to apply money to retirement as needed, apply money to reduce the debt, and be able to put some money towards savings, and still leave some money left over just to have in her checking account, so that her floor is not zero, meaning that she has more than just $0 left over in the account every month. That was important. So how was it? Do you recall how it was for you? How easy or difficult or challenging was it when you had to get started on this budget? And now I'm like, okay, Carolyn, you gotta stay under 100 or 200 or whatever amount we came up with for your personal allowance.
Well, once I found out that I had more money than I thought, uh-huh. then it seemed like it was a piece of cake to do this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it really wasn't when I first started, mm-hmm. because it was just a certain amount. I'm going according to the budget, and I wasn't used to a budget. Yeah. So if my budget is, if my budget is 150 mm-hmm. for food, then I had to stay within that budget. Yes. That's the key to having a budget. Right. So, okay. That's so simple. It's common sense, but having it written down on paper and being at the store mm-hmm. is two different things,
right,
you know?
Right. And what, if I recall correctly, you've had, over the time period, you've had some challenges at times with the whole taking out cash thing too, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Because I would use my card for everything. Right. And
here I go rocking the boat. Right. Carolyn, I need you to take out cash.
Right. So Breanna says, well, take out cash and put it in different envelopes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I did that. I'm like, okay, this is extra for me, right?
But she got to go to the bank and carry it on.
Right. So I did that. So that was a little easier for me, okay? Mm-hmm, because mm-hmm. once everything was gone in the envelope, that's it. Okay?
Right, that's it.
So that's it, and that's all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, did you have times? I really don't remember because it's been a few years, and okay, we got a lot of clients. But do you recall if you had times where you ended up using a debit card or came back and said, I know I've had some clients do this. I just don't remember if it was you. They'll come back and say, well, maybe the budget was, I don't know, $200 for groceries. And they come back, well, I only went over by like $10, or I only went over by $30, on the budget. Well, how did you go over if you were supposed to pull out cash? Did you have any of those moments? I don't remember if you did or didn't.
Not really, because once everything was gone in the envelope, I knew it was just a no-no. It was a no-no. And if you want to do this right, mm-hmm. to see what's on paper, and I could say this and say that, and it would all come out right, because it just looks good on paper. It does. Because I'm like, I didn't know I had money like that.
Right.
So,
and you made you've done an excellent job of the mental mindset shift, which is a part of our process. It's more than just the numbers. You can show somebody a budget all day, and it's not just budget, it's retirement, it's a whole lot of things that we do in our process, but the mindset is the biggest piece.
Exactly.
Of if you do the steps, if you do the strategies that we're giving to you, then you're going to see a shift in how you start to think about money. So what was that process? What has that process been like in your thinking now, and how you approach money, how you do things? Because you be on your budget like right on right. Okay.
So that word shift is important.
Yeah.
So if I have my personal allowance is $150, and where I see I go over is food. Well, food has gone up. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and I'm a foodie. I go to the grocery store maybe 3 times a week because I like to eat different foods. So
right.
So and I eat good. and I eat food that is more expensive because it's natural stuff. So it costs more to eat good. Okay.
It does.
It really does. So,
yeah.
So I try to do that. But so if I go over my budget, my personal spending is $150. I will consciously say, well, I don't automatically spend my money right away. So I have money left over. So the money that I spend for food or whatever else it is, because I don't spend that much on gas, then I will just make that adjustment. So I stayed within the budget. I didn't go over, but I made that adjustment.
So that's a key point. Let me stop you right there, because your point is, I want to make sure that y'all don't miss this, is that she is so in tune with her budget and the managing of the money that she made a conscious choice to say, okay, if my budget for groceries is $200 and my budget for personal spending is $150, but I see that I want to buy a few extra things at the grocery store, maybe my groceries I want to go over by $30, then I'm adjusting my personal allowance to cover the extra $30 that I want to spend on groceries, so that I'm not affecting the other money that I have now already planned for. I'm paying down debt, I'm increasing my retirement savings, I'm increasing my emergency savings, all of those things, right?
Correct. Or if not and not so much food, but if I go over my personal budget, but I'm on my food budget, I've stayed on my food budget for that bi-weekly, but I haven't used $40 for gas. Okay, so I've only used $20 for gas.
Right.
So I still got $20 to play with.
Yeah.
So I consciously know this in my mind. Whereas at first I would just spend.
Yeah.
So I think before I spend now.
I know that's right. Come on,
that's
and think
what
before you spend.
So I think before I spend. Now, you know what? I've gone over because things have come up. I'm a giving person, just by nature. I like to give. So I'll give, and sometimes I've already spent my money, my budget, my personal amount, but I'll give someone something, because whether they're in need or I see that they're in need, I will do that. So I've gone over, and then I've even gone over. For what else did I go? Have I gone? Not for spending. Lord knows I got enough shoes. Well,
the biggest piece, though, I think of what you're saying or what you're trying to say is that if you're overspending in a particular category, the difference now is you're not spending to be spending or spending without being aware. You're aware that if you decide that you want to buy an extra pair of shoes or extra whatever that causes you to go over the category, you're not doing that without acknowledging or being aware of the impact to the rest of the budget. And you have a plan for, okay, well, I want to be able to spend a little bit more on this particular month, so I'm going to pull back in this area to kind of cover it. Really is the bottom line, whether that's gas or whether that's groceries or whether that is personal or whatever the case may be, right?
I make the adjustment, yes.
Yeah.
That's key, making the adjustment.
Yeah.
And I feel good about that. I really do.
Yeah, you've been managing really, really well. I mean, we don't meet on a regular basis anymore. It's been a few years now, so it's kind of more on an as needed type scenario, more like quarterly or so that we meet, just kind of as a check-in because we do still have things that we're working on. So when we talked about retirement, once we kind of did our numbers, we saw and determined that it was better for you to wait a little bit longer to retire so that you could have a better result, because we weren't going to have all the money that was needed based on what you need to live off of. And so it's important, again, for people to be clear about that. So many people wait. You have to be able to do course correction, and you can't do course correction if you don't know what your numbers are. So you got to know your numbers ahead of time, not just retire. This is how, if you don't do that, then this is absolutely what sets people up for retiring and having to go back to work because they don't have a choice. They got to be able to do it in order to pay all the bills. So it was important for us to try to free up as much cash as we could. We wanted to be able to try to reduce your retirement numbers, reduce your monthly expenses so that you can, so that you would need less money to live off of. We needed the proper balance between increasing the retirement savings and lowering the amount of money needed to live off of. And some of that comes from just being able to get rid of the debt. So speaking of the debt, when we first started this process, you had $84,851 of debt in total between all of her different various things. And so now that debt has been reduced in just this 3-year time frame to $28,598. I might get some applause in the background there because that's a pretty big doggone deal. Okay, that's like a good over $50,000. It's pretty substantial. Now I know part of that debt was a student loan that, praise the Lord, got forgiven, which is like a huge deal. Yes, and actually, I want to bring up something pertaining to that you specifically told me. You spoke it into existence. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going. And I was trying to find exact verbiage on what you told me. But basically, she basically had already said, student loan. She believes her this is what I wrote back in December of 2019, that she believes her student loan will be paid off by a third party. And sure enough, she'd been talking about it. I would hear her talk about it. I don't know how it's going to get paid, but I've asked the Lord for this debt to be forgiven, to be paid off by somebody else. And sure enough, doggone it, if you didn't get that letter, it's your student loan.
January of this year. Yes, I did. The entire amount was paid
my goodness.
off.
My goodness. That's some shout music right there.
Glory.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. But you spoke it. The Bible says, call those things that are not as though they were. And you called it 3 years ago. This is what I'm praying for. This is what I believe. I know I might sound crazy, but this is what I believe. And she said it. And I'm like, okay. People say stuff to me all the time. And I'm like, I believe anything is possible. Everything is possible. So I'm never going to be like, girl, please, ain't nobody going to pay off your student loan debt. I'm right there with you. Like, hey, I have faith. I'm with you. God can do some amazing things. So
correct. That's right.
So anyway, so some of that was student loan, but the rest of it was debt that you paid down yourself over time, combined with saving money, and and we've been increasing the retirement savings over time. We did some things with that and analyzed all those numbers as well. So to be down to 28,000 though, really from 84 is the bottom line. Down from that number in 3 years is actually pretty amazing. And we've increased your cash flow by another $600. So, your cash flow has increased tremendously. We had her saving money, of course, like I said, from the very beginning. And of course, now you're doing that on your own and deciding, the amounts that she has going to savings, how much is, going towards other things, because she's still working on paying down that debt, because we still got a retirement to prepare for. Yes. Which I believe is, what's the new retirement date?
August 2024.
Okay. Yes. August 2024. So, but she was only able to do that and determine, a new date because of having a solid financial plan and being focused on where she wants to be. And I think you have really, really done a good job with that. Now, during this process, I know that you got rid of a car loan, and you got rid of two, actually.
I did.
Because you had a loan for yourself, but you also were paying on your son's loan. You were a co-signer on his car.
Yes.
And how did that go? Pretty well before you had to pay it off? Like, was that working as a parent, trying to help an adult child? Because there's a lot of parents listening right now who are in similar situations or considering similar situations.
Let me just say this. As long as I live, and 2 years after I'm gone, I would never co-sign for another person. So.
I got you.
Okay?
Okay. Gotcha.
Never.
Gotcha. Well, from a financial advisory standpoint, should you co-sign for another person on their car loan? No, you should not. Because you have to consider especially if they're an adult, if they're not able to get the car loan on their own. I had a client recently, maybe about a year ago, asked me about co-signing on a car for her brother. And I said, it's not a good idea for you to do that. You have to ask yourself, if they're not able to get the car on their own, their credit has not been approved, why? Is it because they're not managing their money well? Is it that they lost a job? Is it that if they lost a job, then how are they going to pay the car loan?
Right.
That means it's going to be left up to you. And in that particular case, it was someone that was on a fixed income already. Yes. So, the question became, well, are you going to be able to handle this car loan? What if your brother can't pay? Then, are you going to be able to handle this car loan? So it's the same when it comes to parents and adult children. And it's easy because, I'm a mom, I have 3 sons, it's easy to feel sympathetic because we always want the best for our kids as a mom. Always, always. But at the same time, it's okay to make tough decisions. Sometimes you have to, and that's still helping them. Because, there's this border between enablement and helping.
Exactly.
And you have to figure out which side of the coin are you falling on. As a parent, are you enabling them? If I go and help my son or my daughter to buy this car and they're 30, 40, 50, whatever years old, they should be in a position to be able to buy their own car by that point in time. And if they can't, and you have to pay that car loan, is it going to put you in a financial bind?
Yes.
Even if it's not going to put you in a financial bind, does not automatically mean it's okay and that you should do it, because, what's the assurance if they haven't been paying their other bills on time? What's the assurance you're going to have that they're going to pay this bill on time? So there's a lot of things that you really have to consider and think about so it doesn't leave you stuck,
And let me just say this. Now, I was already paying on, I still had a car note. I was paying for my car.
Yeah.
But I was glad to, even though he stopped paying the bill, so the car note, so I had to pay his as well. But I was glad to be in a position where I could pay it.
I know that's right.
I was in a position financially to pay both car notes. So that was a blessing within itself.
Absolutely.
But if I hadn't co-signed, I would never had,
been in that situation.
Been in that situation.
Right.
So I definitely don't advise it. And like you said, I agree with all that you said. If they weren't in a position to do it at that age, then something's wrong with this picture.
Right. And I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat and say it's not tough. It's definitely tough, especially if maybe they just got a job and now they got to figure out how they're going to get back and forth to work. And, they've been asking you to drive them to and from work or something like that. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I should just help them get a car. No, they need to help themselves to be able to get a car, and really, realistically, one of the best ways that you can help them is to help them to get their finances on track so that we break this generational curse.
Yes.
That's the bigger issue, is because many of us weren't taught how to manage money. How long do we allow that to continue through the generations by enabling our adult children to, continue to use our money? Well, I gave him $500. I had to give him $1,000 last month to help pay his rent or her rent or whatever the case may be. I had to help pay her cell phone. I had a parent tell me they help pay one of their child's bills, but the child just came from vacation. What?
I know. I know. Yeah.
What now? What was that? how I can't.
Yeah.
So, so we really got to think about, are we really helping them? Whether that is you paying bills for them, you giving them money, you co-signing for a car, any number of things. I got parents that have own properties and they've got their adult children living in the properties and not paying rent for free, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like all of that isn't where else they gonna move and live for free? Nowhere.
Can't live anywhere for free.
Right. And so in the meantime, it's still costing you, the parent, but you want to be able to retire by the time you 55 or 60 or 65. It's absolutely affecting your ability to retire.
It is.
And then once you do retire, then what are you going to do after that when you're on a fixed income? And now it really, really matters. All of those things considered, and I'm sure that for some of the adult children that are listening, it's probably not a popular conversation, but.
Exactly. And can I add this? I have a family member that from time to time will ask me for gas money. So I would just give it to the family member. I'm not going to say
sure
him or her, but you know who I'm talking about. So I said, you know what? Do you have a budget? Because you work every day and you work hard. So you shouldn't be asking me for gas money.
That right there.
You shouldn't be asking me for it. Now,
come on.
I give it to you.
Right.
Because you need it. But do you have a budget? No, ma'am, I don't have a budget. I said, okay. Are you willing to sit down with me and so we can work these numbers?
Absolutely.
So I was Breanna Colón for that time.
That's
okay?
right. That's right. That's what you got to do.
That's what I did. And I said, you know what? You don't have to do this. You don't have to go by this. But Do you see a difference in what you make and what you have left over?
Yep. That's right.
He said, thank you. I do see a difference, and this makes sense to me.
Amen.
And he's on a budget now.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I could clap, but I don't want to be all in the mic. Come on.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
And I'm like, why are you asking me for gas money?
Right.
You work every day.
Right. Yeah. It's and that's what I mean, is that as you have your finances together, you're getting your stuff together, help the next person. And sometimes people will show you who they really are when you start asking them. Like if somebody says, hey, can I borrow $3,000? Because they know they at least think that they know that you got money and that you have it. Mm-hmm. Start asking them questions like, well, first of all, of course you want to know why they need the $3,000 and how what's their plan for paying it back. Ask them what you just said. Do you have a budget? Do you have a written budget? No, I don't. Okay, so if I give you this money, are you willing to sit down and go over a written budget with me? Some people you'll find that'll shut it down right there. They don't want to deal with all that. They ain't know what's gonna come with all these stipulations.
Exactly.
You want me to sit down with you and go over a written? I just want you to give me the money.
Right.
That's not how we're gonna do things.
That's right.
So you'll find out the person's true colors if they are really genuinely in a pickle and they really are interested in getting into a better position, mm-hmm. or if they're interested in just using you as Bank of America, but your name, Bank of your name, right? And so, and then when you want to think about it from a spiritual perspective, the dollar says, in God we trust. But sounds like in some instances, it's your name they trust. Mm-hmm. At what point in time are they going to be able to raise their level of faith to be able to trust God to be the provider and meet them at their place of need if you're constantly bailing them out? How long are we going to be God to our children? You know what I mean? We have to be careful that we're not being God. We might be doing it inadvertently. We're not trying to do it.
Exactly.
But sometimes that's what ends up happening, is that they become so dependent on us as adults that, we end up being a God to them.
Right.
So anyway, I know I went off on a soapbox, but it was necessary because I need people to understand, like, this is a really, really big, big problem. Another thing I want to bring up too, before we kind of wrap things up, is I know that you bought a house. So congratulations on that a few years ago. And of course, we're strategizing on that too. We've got some great plans for having that paid off earlier in retirement. Mm-hmm. People can have a 30-year loan. That doesn't mean you got to take 30 years to pay it off. Exactly. And so we've definitely been able to strategize and to be able to map that out for you as well. So I know that before you met me, we had talked about how you took money out of your retirement account to pay for some other stuff. I don't remember what it was for. If it was for
just paying off when my credit cards got high, mm-hmm. and I would just pay them off because, of course, the higher the credit card, the more you had to pay per month. Yeah. You can't be paying the minimum. Yeah. So I would just get sick of that credit card bill, and I would get money out of my TSP in mm-hmm. order to pay that off.
Mm-hmm. Now that's a common occurrence. I wanted to bring it up because I've had a lot of people that, because they don't have their savings account adequate where it needs to be, then they rely on TSP, 401k, 403b, whatever, to go and borrow money from. Whether that's, I pulled it out so that I could put money down on my house, or I pulled it out so I could consolidate bills. That is not your savings account. That is for retirement. It's specifically mm-hmm. for retirement. And I think I've said this before, that sometimes, people will take it a step further and be upset that they're getting penalized for pulling the money out because they're under 59 and a half. Well, you weren't supposed to touch it. Right. Uh-huh. It wasn't for that. It wasn't for you to pull out and pay off debt. It wasn't for you to pull out to pay off to get in the house and whatever else people are using it for. But they figure, it's convenient and I won't miss it, and I'm just going to pay it back per pay period out of my check. I don't even have to think about it. It's convenient. Right. But how convenient is it really? Exactly. It's really not. It's really not. And so anyway, the point is, though, since the time we've started, though, I heard you say you have not touched.
I have not touched taken any money out of my TSP.
That's because you've been what?
Saving.
Come on here. Okay. All right. Yes. So, really proud of your accomplishments. Obviously, we still have more to go because we're still trying to get retirement situated and, make sure the house gets paid off and all of that other stuff. But I certainly thank you for taking the time today to come and hang with little old me. It's been really, really great.
You are welcome.
I'm sure that we have definitely given people social media stuff to talk about today. When people are thinking about their friends and family and so forth. So anyway, until next time, guys, be sure to tune in for the next podcast episode. Make it a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.